Welcome to the award-winning Cincy PostCast. I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I got to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery, our favorite friends who just recently celebrated their 8th birthday. Shout out to everybody who was able to make it out there to celebrate with them. And a huge thank you to Jim, Trace, and the makers for giving the place some nice atmosphere on a lovely Saturday before FC Cincinnati. Look, it is an awesome place. If you haven't been, please go check them out. Streetside over in the Columbia Tusculum neighborhood on Eastern Avenue. It is an awesome place. They're making some awesome beers there. They have a style for every single person. And when you are there, tell them the Cincy PostCast sent you. They will knock $1 off of your beer for each beer. It is a great deal. And all you got to do is admit in public that you've listened to the postcast. So, if you don't have any dignity, take a couple bucks off of your bar tab there. But a huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring this episode. Congratulations on 8 years, Streetside. And thank you, listener, for using that code over at Streetside. And on today's episode, it's a bit of an up and down episode. As you might have heard, we won an award, and you betcha we talked about it on this podcast because let's be real, we did our best to try to avoid talking about the defeat this weekend by FC Cincinnati at the hands of LAFC, the first loss to a Western Conference opponent this season. Isn't that a fun fact? Doesn't that fill you with joy? What went wrong with this team? What went wrong in this game? And what can look what do we look forward to in the future of these next couple of games? Is there anything to look forward to? Where are the silver linings? We try to find them. In part 2, we figure out exactly what sort of award we won. We had to talk to the man handing out the awards. Huge thank you to Favian for joining us in part 2. Also in part 2, we have your questions answered. We wrap up our September questions. So if you want to know, 2 truths and a lie about each of your co-hosts here, listen to that part. And then in part 3, it is a New York City FC preview and predictions. How are we feeling? What are the vibes like going into the midweek? What's at stake? Is anything at stake anymore for the rest of the regular season? You have to listen to find out. You put all of that together, and boy, will you realize exactly why giving us the award for the best MLS podcast of 2024 was probably not the best decision. Enjoy the postcast. And joining me to talk about all of that and surely more, I'm joined by the Chief. I'm joined by Grayson. Grayson, welcome back to the pod. Are you ready to talk about a loss?
Always.
a Grayson predicted loss if I don't misremember here.
If you reduce my score, it was correct.
All scores are fractions now, and you were correct.
Always guess even numbers, folks.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as bad, I don't think, as you had us, but
all losses are bad. Let's be real here. There's no such thing as a happy loss.
I think it was bad, but we can talk about why I think it was bad in a little bit, because I think we do have a win to celebrate. No?
Yes, gentlemen, it was not a complete loss this weekend.
Boy, this is so self-congratulatory. It's like everyone's tuning in because of the loss that the FC took, and instead we're going to pat ourselves on the back. Really?
I want people to literally hear me patting myself on the back. The Post Cincy is literally the best MLS-based podcast of 2024. That's it. That's the end of the sentence.
There's no caveats or there's no qualifications to this?
No qualifications that it's fan-produced. No qualifications that it's team-specific. Yep. So, soccer-wise, You can sucker wise.
Extra time, you might need more time. All right. This is not enough.
TikTok extra time.
Men in blazers. Maybe it's time to hang them up.
Send them off
Just
to the
saying.
dry cleaner. It's old and busted. So we won a fan vote. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool.
We did win a fan vote.
Although we are still waiting. I'm hearing reports of truckloads of ballots being driven in both Fulton County, Georgia, and the greater Philadelphia area.
Chief, remind me, how many mules was it?
10,000 mules?
10,000. I wasn't sure if it was 10 or 20,000 mules.
Yeah.
20,000 would be an outrageous number.
That's a large number of mules. That's a large number of sterile animals fixing our election right here.
10,000 mules.
We had about 800 mules. We won a fan vote on the same weekend that Lana Del Rey gained a fan boat.
Hey, look at that.
Can't laugh at that.
That is
not going to do it. Not going to get a laugh out of me on that one.
That was impressive.
Was it?
I liked it.
I thought it was interesting also, and I have it in my hand. People don't realize how much work goes into podcasting.
Please read me some highlights from this.
You know, there was a New York Times article. This is not a headline. This is a real article.
This is not also in BroadwayWorld.com.
No, it's not also in Broadway. I mean, it might be in Broadway World. I don't know.
It might make sense in Broadway World, depending on what we're about to get here.
So the tag of it is, podcasts can make compelling conversation sound effortless. It's anything but. And I'll tell you, if you know anything about me, you would know how true that is. So the article starts off, and we're not going to spend a ton of time on this. Don't worry, guys. But it just seems like a very like postcast moment. It's a segment from a podcast called Critics at Large, which is the weekly pop culture podcast of The New Yorker.
Okay.
It's a great name for a podcast, too. Critics at Large. It's just so wonderfully playful, yet also self-important.
Yes.
Right. And it starts off with a woman saying, "This is such a horrible thing to say, and probably many listeners will not like hearing this." And that's something I'm sure that I've said on this podcast. And then she says, "I don't like philosophy," which I think that is also kind of a point. Well, I agree with that. Somebody else says, everyone knows our biases. Give us a novel, put the philosophy in with it. Exactly. Right.
Ooh,
like I would like to read books. It was just some other stuff in here I thought was like crazy. Like this New Yorker podcast did they recorded several pilot episodes of tests.
How many pilot episodes do you need for a fucking podcast?
It says, after initial conference call to discuss the concept of the show, the hosts of the New Yorker's Critics at Large played icebreaker games to build intimacy. If you had asked me to do that, Kevin, this podcast never would have gotten off the ground.
How did we? I don't even remember how we got this podcast started. What
you got me at a low moment is what happened.
Grayson, I'm so glad you can't look ahead to the Patreon questions that I have on deck for you.
And then they talk about this other podcast, Pivot. So here's so before I get to Pivot, I want to say this. So they talk about Tig Notaro's podcast, which is called Handsome.
Okay.
And it says the Handsome team doesn't discuss episode topics in advance, but for those who aren't,
they're just talking about us, the Handsome team.
Yep, exactly. But for those who aren't professionally funny, some preparation is advised. Well, too bad.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit.
Is that what we're doing wrong? Damn it.
God.
It's either that we're not professionally funny or we're not doing enough preparation. Other places send scripts to each other in Google Docs.
What?
Yeah.
Can you imagine trying to script this show out ahead of time? Like,
well, here's where we're going to do a 10-minute tangent on some 90s action movie.
So it says, for Pivot, the popular business and tech podcast co-hosted by Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. The hosts and their producers have a group chat for floating potential discussion topics throughout the week.
Plural?
Producers, plural. Those are later funneled into a script on Google Docs, complete with talking points, background information, and relevant links. During recording sessions, the producers communicate with the hosts by editing the document in real time.
Wow.
Do we need a producer? We barely had an intern this summer.
We definitely need a producer, but I refuse to work with one. So, yeah.
Now that's the kind of work ethic I can get behind.
Just total diva behavior. It's like, no, I refuse to work with this person.
Would one be good? Necessary. Will we work with one? No.
Can we pay one? Absolutely not.
No, not even a little bit.
Can we add a Patreon level that is just like $45,000 and that just pays a producer?
I'll tell you what, some people seem to think that just being a member of our Discord makes you one of our producers.
And they're right. We will do whatever you ask.
Yeah, they're not.
Just please keep listening.
Wrong.
The idea that one person will stop listening keeps me up at night.
The idea that one more person might be listening keeps me up at night.
The only podcast we encourage you never to share with your friends and family.
What would we want a producer to do? Let's say we had one. I mean, I like the idea of like a live fact check a little bit. That seems nice. Just like a professional Googler nearby.
Like Stat Boy, like Tony Reale from Pardon the Interruption back in the day.
Or Red Band, or whoever Joe Rogan's newest, Jamie, his little fact checker.
Red Pill.
Brian Red Pill.
I would say we could have a producer think about places to send FOIA requests to.
Love that.
Okay, good.
And then also do them.
So we're going to need to have another lawyer on staff. That's a great idea.
That's the thing. It's like if I'm going to have a producer,
Kevin, how do you feel about night school?
We're going to use all of the Patreon money to send Kevin to some online lawyering school. Law school is what most people would probably call it.
Lawyering is way better.
A producer can cut Kevin's ad reads to 5 minutes.
Oh, good. We wouldn't want them to get too long. Look, I originally said, yeah, you'll get like a minute. And then I realized I can't get any information in 1 minute. I got too much to say.
Street side, they have beer.
Street side beer. Good. Go.
Maybe not in Columbia, Tusculum, but close enough.
You know,
Columbia, Tusculum-ish. It's good beer. Use the promo code, the Post Cincy. Get drunk on us.
I have no opinion on their location, by the way.
I love their location. Their location is delightful.
So
no. I mean, yes, as a location, it's very good. I have no opinion on what neighborhood that location is in. If there's a distinction, it's fake.
There is some debate, and I would love to have people tell me what they believe. East End or Linwood or Columbia Tusculum. I have been giving it to Columbia Tusculum because in general, that stretch of Eastern tends to belong to the Columbia Tusculum Business District. However, I think
and if Street Side owns that building, it's better for them to be in Columbia Tusculum.
Especially if they want to sell it down the road.
Yeah. But the other thing is East End, Columbia Tusculum, and I think Linwood all have a combined business community, like their business association is all one entity. So they kind of see themselves all as one thing anyway. So
yeah, we're all Cincinnati.
Yeah. 52
They should name the neighborhood Street Side, honestly. Like the brewery is the most famous location there. It's the only reason to live in that area as far as I'm concerned.
You know, I will say Street Side, yes, great. Next door, there's an establishment called The Local Post, which they could just shorten it to The Post. And then I'm all in.
Did we reach out to the wrong people for sponsorship?
the letter got delivered to the wrong mailbox. Right. We were like, Street Side's fine.
As soon as the owner of The Local Post heard the first ad read for Street Side, their response was, you got to be shitting me, really?
We were right here.
Am I invisible? Do I not exist? What are we doing here? Great dry rub wings, by the way. That's a free plug. That you only get one. Now that we are an award-winning podcast.
And we know that doing podcasts is hard. Thank you, Grayson.
That's absolutely true. What we really do need is we need a guest booker. Like that would be what I would want a producer to do. Because apparently
that would actually be helpful.
I learned this a while ago, that all these podcasts that you listen to that have just incredible guests, and you think, man, they must be working really hard to get these guests. Like, no, they hire someone to do that. They have like a professional guest booker, and then they just show up and do the interview. Like that feels like cheating.
That would be very, very helpful.
Also, like the article in the New York Times, that podcast that was featured in it, I guarantee you got featured because they have a publicist.
Yes.
Because that is almost, especially if it's in the style section. If there's suddenly an article about somebody who's like an up and comer in the style section of the New York Times, that person had a publicist who lives in downtown Manhattan and placed that. I think they call it placing it.
Yes.
They placed it in that paper. And we would never do that.
No. Branded content, as it's known elsewhere
we
in the news
only
world.
do earned media.
Yeah. Something like that.
By having the beat writer from the Inquirer on. Please mention us. Please mention us somewhere. Please, you don't? Please. It's okay. It's cool. We're still friends. It's all right.
It's fine. Yeah. If every guest could just give us one retweet, that would be cool.
You could even refer to us as one fan blog.
Oh, yeah. or
we accept that as well.
ADM.
Yes.
A single DM.
Co Favi winner, Tom Bogert.
That's true. Hey, shout out to Pat Brennan as well. Sneaking a win.
That's a win for the Post as well. That's a win for the Postcast, I think.
Yeah.
For the Postcast expanded universe, I would say.
The Postcast audio universe.
I'm just obsessed with the idea of having a publicist, a producer, and a guest booker for a show that has 12 listeners, where you would have 6 people producing a show for 12 people. That's just
actually, we can book them all.
The ratio of people to listeners is like, we need to get to 1-to-1 is what we really need to do.
So we need a call screener. We'll need an editor. We'll need a shorts editor. So somebody who can put together shorter clips. We'll definitely want 2 producers. So like a fact checker and then somebody who's like monitoring audio levels, even though how we do this, that is literally impossible, but they'll be doing it.
I suppose we should take
that producer can also do the rundown.
Well, that too.
Or we can have a script writer. Yeah, it was another position. So
the reason why we're talking about all this right now, just to let the listeners inside the bit, is that we are pretty certain. I would say that I personally am 80 to 85% certain that there is a massive cash prize associated with winning this podcast award. We're going to have the award creator on in the next segment. Kevin, how much do you think that we're getting for this? I'm thinking that it's got to be, based on the size of our win, I'm thinking it's got to be high 6 figures, possibly low 7.
Yeah, so I was thinking if you got $1 from every fan outlet, fan podcast, fan website, content creator, and they all had to contribute $1 to the pot, I think there'd be roughly $10 million of prize money available. So I think that would be a good place to start.
So, I mean, we're going to have the money to hire all these people, I think. So
obviously,
stay tuned for this interview, because I'm confident that by the time we hit segment 3, it's going to be a different sounding podcast.
Man, you see some of these like YouTubers who talk about how they're burnt out. And I've always wondered, like, how the hell is that possible? Then you look and they have like a team of 45 people. It's like you have more employees on staff than like hedge funds,
right,
that control trillions of dollars. What are you doing?
Because if this doesn't work, my next step is going to have to do the iShow speed and try to jump over a car. That's not going to go well for me. I can just predict that right now.
You might go more viral with the attempt. Oh, he tried a Bronco. What was he thinking?
That was a terrible idea. Oh, God, that's going to be expensive on the medical bills. Anything to avoid talking about this LAFC game.
Say,
anything to avoid this.
Is there anything more self-indulgent that we can get into to avoid talking about a tough loss to a Western Conference contender? Damn.
I heard I got a story about this game.
Okay.
There was a guy, he was loved soccer. Like it was his whole life.
Okay.
And he goes to the doctor. He says, "Doctor, I'm depressed.
Yeah.
I used to love soccer, but now I find no enjoyment in it at all. Nothing seems to go the way that I want, and I don't know what to do next."
Yeah.
Doctor says, well, you're in luck. There's a wonderful soccer team in town, FC Cincinnati. They have a brilliant player called Lucho Acosta. He does these beautiful little tricks and dribbles and flicks and nutmegs. He plays the game with such joy. You look at it and you think, man, I am so happy to live in a world where genius exists. And the man puts his hand on his hands on his head and starts weeping. And he says, "But doctor, I am Lucho Acosta."
Damn. Ain't that the truth?
Ask your doctor if insert drug here is right for you.
Oh, man. That's a great way to start this off because this was a tough game for FC Cincinnati. For FC Cincinnati fans. I don't know who took it worse, the players or the fans. Who's in a worse spot right now, I should say.
I mean, the players are getting paid. We're paying to watch it. I think that usually is the great determiner. By default. I just, when you say took it worse, like, it's interesting that like this game bummed me out, but in one sense, there's a lot of clarity involved now. Oh. And that's that for weeks, what we've been talking about is this team finding an identity. This team needs to find an identity. This team needs to find out who it is and get hot for the playoffs, kick it into the next gear for the playoffs. And now at this point, after having watched this team for the entire month of September and this final game right here, it's like, this is who this team is. There is no next gear for this team to hit. This is just who FC Cincinnati is. And what they are is a frustratingly inconsistent team that is capable of having moments of brilliance. And yeah, they can win a game here and there. They can grind out a result here and there. But by and large, they're just a team that something just feels off. And we can debate what that is, but this team just doesn't have it this year. And I don't think that's going to change between now and when the playoffs start. And as a result, that whole, well, this is a team that has a cup run in it if it can get the right pieces in place and figure itself out. To me, after watching this game, it's become very, very hard to see that as a probable outcome in the playoffs. It's not impossible, but in terms of probable outcomes, this is kind of like, you know what, you are what the back of your baseball card says you are at this point.
Yeah, so I think that there were a couple of things that really stood out to me this game. One is, obviously, if the team has a cup run in it, it needs Lucho to be Lucho. It needs Lucho to be the MVP, needs him to be the little mad genius out there. And he does not, at the moment, seem to have it. There were multiple times in the game where, he had basically a man to beat in the box. And, you're used to that being basically a free goal where if Lucho's in the box and he's got one man to beat to get a look. And, none of those came off. No. And they didn't even take like really spectacular defending, right? It felt like the defender just knew what Lucho was going to do. which is bad. Like, you're not supposed to know what he's going to do.
Right.
He's not supposed to know what he's going to do.
Right.
And then we've talked about the team's ability to like pull off the spectacular and to play, so quick and skillfully, but they were trying to do that. That was like basically their whole offensive game plan was to like play beautifully, and they just weren't. Right, the passing was not good, and they were giving the ball away cheaply in midfield, and then the defense was out of shape, and that's really how LAFC got the first goal for sure, and got a lot of their most dangerous looks. And the issue is they did not have a plan for making things easier on themselves, or at least they didn't execute on a plan to make things easier on themselves. And a way you can do that is like kind of having kind of simple things you can do, like a player like Kevin Kelsey or Sergio Santos gives you a target like over the defense to keep the center backs kind of honest. Kelsey gives you some hold up outlet that they didn't have, for the vast majority of the game, by choice. And so, you look at some of the other goals scored around the league, like the Brian White goal against Portland, these kind of like just kind of easy, quick goals where the guy finds some space and the cross finds him. We don't, that's not like in the arsenal right now.
No.
And so like in a game where you're not doing anything you're not doing anything to make it easier on yourselves, any way to put pressure on the center backs. And then on top of it, your passing is extremely poor. That's kind of what happens. I mean, LAFC's backup attackers could have had multiple goals.
Yeah.
In that first half, and almost entirely from giveaways.
Yeah. It was almost like there was with the FC, they were the only of the two teams that didn't realize that the field was waterlogged and the ball wasn't moving the way that they anticipated. It's almost like they were dropped into the stadium with no preparation on what the weather was like, what the field conditions were like, because you could see water spraying up as the ball moved, and they never adjusted at any point during the game of, I need to put more pace on this in order to get where it's going, or I shouldn't be playing these balls along the ground. We should be playing balls off the ground. It's almost like it looked like putting after like a rainstorm, where if you've played golf, I got to give this a little more because the greens are soaked. And LA figured this out real quickly. There was no attempt whatsoever, or nothing that I saw, where FC Cincinnati understood what the conditions they were playing were. But that's also kind of an excuse, because this has kind of been, even when the field conditions are good, this has kind of been a problem for the team all year. And to Grayson's point with like the easy goals, part of that is just the squad that they have constructed, which is sort of my other kind of overarching point, and what I've started to think about a little bit in the last couple of weeks, is that there are some parts on this team that I think are very good players. I think they're very, very good players that don't work together. Like, for example, the idea of wanting these goals where passes are made into space, and it sets up easy goal scoring opportunities. Well, when you got a wing back that wants to cut inside every single time he gets the ball, you're not going to be playing balls in wide. You're not going to be finding and crossing balls in to strikers or people that are in space, because you're going to draw the defense with you as you move in with the ball. And you look around this team and you're like, who are the good passers on this team? Who are the guys on this team that are really good at delivering, good balls to people that are open in the attacking third? And who is it? It isn't Buka. Buka's great, but Buka has not shown this year the ability to make unlocking passes or to find guys that are open in the attack. It's also not really his job, but he's not offering it. Yedlin has been disappointing with that this year. Orishano, he never looks to pass first. Lucho does that when he's feeling right, but he hasn't looked right all year. Wobodo's passing has been terrible this year. Like, we're at the point now where, who is it? Cheeto is the best passer on this team, and he's probably gone. It looks like he might be gone for a significant amount of time now.
Maybe was, yeah.
You look at this team, and all these players I've just named, they're all good players, I think. But do they work well together? I don't know. Like, if you would have asked me about Luca Orishano, like, should they pick his option up? I would have been a dead set yes a month ago. Now, I don't know. Like, the way this team wants to play, is that compatible with a winger that constantly wants to cut inside? Like, whether he's being coached to do it or that's the only thing he knows how to do, or that's what he does best, they're saying go do it. It screws their spacing up when he's constantly moving into the middle. Like, it screws their striker's ability to find space when he's constantly moving into the middle. And you've got a winger on the other side that doesn't do that. So there's a lot of things on this team where what's the identity? I don't know that they know either. I don't know that they can know because they've put a lot of parts together that may not fit well. And then again, we have another match where Kevin Kelsey doesn't start. And in a match that was crying out for a striker like Kevin Kelsey, where you could do something different over the top. And I'm sorry, I've been accused of being a hater on this. Gio ain't it, man. He's not it. I don't know whether they have an unofficial promise of how many minutes he gets because they got the loan deal, or if there's someone on the coaching staff that is big on him. If he's doing something, I'm not seeing it. And I don't understand why he keeps getting starts because he's ineffective when he plays.
He seemed to have a lot of trouble receiving passes. And not, touching them too heavy and giving the ball away.
Yeah.
He had one opportunity with a header that there's no doubt in my mind Kelsey scores on. And then it was kind of the elephant in the room of the game outside of Lucho is how much better the team looked with Sergio Santos.
Oh.
And how much more active and effective Santos was when he came in the game than Joe Aquini was in the first half.
Everything that people have said Joe Aquini offers this team, Santos demonstrated, and the team looked better. And you can argue game state and that there's probably something to it, but I would also suggest that if FCC was as pitiful and awful as people were suggesting, there would have been no reason for LAFC to turn off. They could use some goal differential. They could use a statement win. They've been in a slump themselves. Their Open Cup win was their first win in like 5 or 6 games. They needed to show that for themselves. Santos shows up, and this is a very different team. Now, they did carry some momentum over from the first half, but Santos is busting his ass, and this team looks very good, and they are rewarded with a goal. The sort of end of that production ends with a goal, and all of a sudden it's a more back and forth game. And granted, their attackers eventually put that one away, but it's a more even fight, even with their first choice attackers subbed into the game. It's a much more even fight with Santos on the field. And again, we saw it in the last game. We see it in this game. There is so much evidence to suggest that Gioacchini is not helping this team. And if he's not helping, he is hurting this team. I don't know what else is out there. Before we keep talking about this. I was going to run through the starting lineup because we have been talking about this and sort of the team construction. And Chief, to your point, once again, confirmation from Carter Chapley on this one. Another unique starting lineup for this team.
It's got to be a bit at this point, right? Like this has to be Noonan's. Like at this point, we've gone so long doing this that I'm going to see if I can do it for every game. There's no other explanation, right?
What do we got? 2 games left, 3 games left, 3 games left. Yeah, why not? You can do that. It's easy. Powell feels likely to start in the next game, or Teenage, which maybe not. Yeah, you could totally do this. So starting lineup in this one against LAFC was Celentano in goal. It was Murphy, Awaziem, and Robinson from left to right. Yedlin on the right. Orishano on the left as your wingbacks, Wobodo, Mbuka, and Acosta as the midfield trio, with Acosta ahead of the other two. Gioacchini and Yuya Kubo up top, which gives us another unique lineup.
But in practice, okay, so they put this lineup out, but in practice, this was the sword formation again. You could see it when they were playing, that Gioacchini was up ahead of Yuya Kubo and Acosta sitting further back. Acosta on the right, Kubo on the left. This doesn't work.
No.
It does not work. For whatever reason, someone smarter than I tactically can tell you why it doesn't work. It just does not work. This formation with Gioacchini up top.
This team would be so much better if, and I know you can joke about this and turn it into 11 of them. I get that. But I think this team would be so much better if they had 2 Yuya Kubas. That's all I want. I want one in midfield and one as a striker. And I don't even necessarily need Yuya Kubo, the midfielder, to start every game. But this team is so desperate for somebody who can do something different or let Wobodo or Buka have some time off or rotate or push them for their jobs, because Wobodo is definitely not the Wobodo we had seen the last 2 years. Buka's fine for what he does, but like, you're telling me you can't think of another flavor of midfielder that couldn't offer something else or couldn't match up better against somebody else. And Kubo is so valuable as a striker. He's basically the only person who works really well with Acosta other than Santos. And so when it's Acosta, Kubo, and Santos out there, they actually look pretty good. There's a lot of intricate passing. You do start to see that beautiful, beautiful game of soccer out there. But the second a pass doesn't come off, it's entirely reliant on Wobodo to be the destroyer and to then make a good pass connecting somebody. And one of those two things just isn't working anymore. Ugh.
It's tough.
Yeah.
You saw in this game as well, it was another game where Luka was targeted down his side of the field and was being beaten fairly regularly on speed runs down the left-hand side of the field.
Yeah.
It's you would not have known that LAFC was rotated in this game, which was part of the frustration, was that right from jump, they were the better team, the more aggressive team. My thought at the time is that the game plan was to allow LAFC to have the ball and dictate play and then counterattack, basing that they have some inexperience out there. They have players that aren't used to playing together, and that you might be able to get some disorganization on an odd man rush or a counterattack, but they never were able to string passes together to counter. They were never able to move the ball through the midfield. They were never able to move quickly. And that's been another feature this year of FC Cincinnati that's tough, is that this is a team that, when Pat Noonan first got here, feasted on counterattack and odd man rush goals. Tons of goals to Brandon Vasquez tapped in as they were moving through with numbers. This team doesn't do that anymore. Like, how many times do you see this team get a chance on the break?
Yeah.
Ever.
Remember the Cincinnati play? Because this team doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, you say that too, particularly about attacking down Orishano's side. Martinez for LAFC, I was blown away by him. I was so impressed. He was everywhere. He was super dangerous. He's 18 years old.
Yeah. Christian Oliveira just absolutely torched Luka multiple times in this match down that side of the field.
22 years old. Both these guys much younger. Not much younger, but, well, Martinez is much younger, 6 years younger than Orishano. If you think of Orishano as a young player, both those guys younger. It made him look it.
There was that. And the other thing, because there's no point going beat by beat for this game. The other thing that, like, it's a problem now, capital P, the corner kicks with Lucho Acosta. Yeah. I want somebody to ask about it. I know that you might not get the question answered by the media, but they aren't good.
No.
And I was comparing it on the Discord earlier today to, he's got a strong leg. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, he makes some incredible, he'll cross a ball from one side of the field and put it on the foot of someone 50, 60 yards away. And it'll be incredible. But the best way that I can describe it is that Russell Wilson threw a great deep ball in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers threw a great deep ball, throws a great deep ball in the NFL. For Russell Wilson to do that, he's got to throw a moon ball. It's got to loop, it's got to go high, and it's got to come down like underneath where the receiver's underneath it. Rodgers throws a rope. And when it comes to taking a free kick or a corner kick, Lucho's only got two things he can do. If he tries to put pace on a ball, it doesn't beat the first man. And if he tries to get the ball long into the box, it loops, and there's not enough pace on the ball to do anything dangerous with it. If it comes down in the box, it's such a high trajectory, the keeper can get it, or it's floating helplessly over the 18 and out of play or into a non-threatening position. They need to get someone taking corners that can put a little venom on the ball. And I understand that, like, if you don't have him taking the corner, he's not someone you want out there receiving a corner, and you don't want him being the last line of defense playing back. They just need to always have him available for a short corner and get someone out there that can actually put a dangerous ball into the box. It's frustrating. It's frustrating watching that any corner that this team takes you may as well just be conceding possession each time.
Yeah. Now, I will say, I want to take a victory lap here, because earlier in the season, I said, stop taking long corners. Every corner should be a short corner, and you should be 2v1 with Lucho Acosta and, at that time, Orishano, and you force them to either be 2v1 with the league MVP going against them, or pull two guys out and let Luka or whoever take the long ball. If they pull two guys out, you will have them either way. And in this game, believe it or not, we score on a corner, but it's because they play it short with Lucho and Kubo. Kubo cycles the ball quickly over to Orishano, who then rips a shot and gets the assist from FC.
I think it was actually the opposite. It was Kubo took the corner kick short to Lucho.
Yes.
Because I was standing and applauding. That was my corner right there. I was like, Jesus Christ, do something different. Anyone.
Right. And Kai Kamara offers the assist on this one to
finally scores
Luka.
A goal for the FC after all this time.
We knew he'd come through for us. FC Cincinnati legend, man. What could have been? I don't know why we keep doing the same damn thing on corners. Somebody else has to do it. What's Buka's corner look like? I don't know. Throw him out there.
Let's find out.
See what it looks like. It probably can't be worse.
He's in the weight room all the time. He's got to have a strong kick, right?
Right.
He's got new dad energy,
Yeah, dad strength. Let's do this. It's just... Or the center backs, they're supposed to have that clearance capability.
Yeah, but like you want them in the box, getting their head on the ball. They're usually the bigger people up there. Yeah,
There's
get it.
3 center backs. You'll be okay with 2.
Yeah. But again, it's a goal that we score where it's a banger.
Cool.
It took a Herculean effort to get the ball into the back of the net. Doesn't do the routine things anymore.
Can I say a bad thing? Really reminds me of Kochball, which is boring, ineffective. Oh shit, look at that wonder goal.
And then let's defend a lot.
Yeah. Well, let your goalkeeper become a hero. Which, hey, for the most part, Celentano was the hero until he got beat near post of the most impossible of angles from Bouanga.
That's bad. Like that's as bad a play as Roman Celentano has had in an FC uniform. Like that's high school CYO soccer level of don't let yourself get beat near post. And I saw people wanting to put blame on Ian Murphy for being beaten by Bouanga to let the shot off. Number one, that's the best player on LAFC. Like he's going to cook most guys 1v1. That's why who he is. But Murphy does exactly what you're going to do. If you're going to be beaten, get beaten and give him a bad angle on the shot. Don't let him get back center. Don't let him get back closer to the goal. Get him going the wrong direction. Roman has to cover that shot. Just you cannot get beat in that spot.
Yeah, it sucked. And it kills what was, like I said, an otherwise okay game from Roman. Made some pretty big saves, especially early on. A lot of people will say, LA probably deserved to be up earlier in this game, and Roman was a huge part of why they weren't able to go up too early in this one. Which is funny because like the first 25 minutes were about as bad as we've seen in some time from FC Cincinnati. But it's moments after we lose Cheeto, probably for the season, when they score.
Well, we don't know that. There hasn't been
know that. There hasn't been
nothing definitively reported. It's only when he went down, it was immediate. I need to be out of this game. He's immediately making the sign to the bench, and he's got the I know something is horribly wrong face that he's making the entire time.
And
now, Nick Hagglund made that face once before, and it turned out he was okay. But then he made that face again, and he's been gone for the entire year. So,
well, there's also this too, which is we've only got 3 games left. So it's pretty easy to say season ending and then go, but he'll be back for the playoffs. So it could be 4 weeks, but
we're waiting for news. No news yet. It did not look good.
It was non-contact-ish, right? He had just passed it away.
He had just contorted himself a little awkwardly to get a ball to the point where my immediate reaction when I saw it, and it happened directly in front of where I sit, my immediate reaction was, oh, he hyperextended something or he pulled a hamstring with the way he was moving his leg. He grabbed immediately for the hamstring. Mm-hmm. The fact that he was able to walk off leads me to guess, like hashtag not a doctor, that this wasn't an Achilles or anything like that.
Well, so he walked off with 2 people carrying a lot of his weight.
I mean, you're not walking anywhere with one of them. So I'm hoping it's just of the hamstring variety, but even still, that could be something that most likely will keep him out for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
What's up with the center backs, man?
I don't know. I made the point that, and Grace, I'm curious your thoughts. Miazga, Cheeto, Hagglund. Could you win an MLS Cup with that back line if those were your starters?
Yes. You could.
I think so. Like, that's a pretty devastating loss for a team.
If we had that available to us in the playoffs last year, we would have won MLS Cup.
Yeah.
But, like the injuries are one thing, but part of the team's problem is self-inflicted. Like you talk about LAFC rotating. Well, some of the players they rotated, like who looked really good, like Martinez and
Kamara.
Yeah. And they have those young guys, Campos, Martinez, and Oliveira, all looked really good. Well, they have all three of them on U22 slots. They've got three U22 players on the roster, right?
Playing.
They signed a big attacking DP in the winter. They brought, Edwesta back on loan. They got Ilie, who they've had a couple of years now. I mean, they brought Timothy Tillman off the bench. They've built a roster.
FC Cincinnati's favorite, Maxine Chanot, is their backup center back.
Who damn near killed Lucho Acosta 2 minutes into this game.
He should have been out of the game, I think.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like Chanot, I always think shouldn't be allowed to play how he does, but he would also be useless if he wasn't allowed to try to murder people every game, because he sucks because he's a bad player.
No, he's a goon.
Just for some reason, he's allowed to do stuff like that. And it's indulged by the officials. But, Kevin, you mentioned it'd be nice to have two Yuya Kubos. Laurel Failer reported there was no contact apparently between FC Cincinnati and Junior Moreno this winter.
No, I missed that. My God, I'm so mad.
There was speculation about, not being able to afford his salary. And I understand that coming into the season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that when you're about to use a DP spot on Joe Aquini.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where the argument falls apart.
And you don't know what else is in play, but like it is a fact that the team went through the summer window, decided not to add any midfield depth, decided not to sign a difference maker in the attack, and
left two U22 spots unused.
Left U22 spots unused. I mean, I know that there's very detailed reporting about some of the big signings that didn't happen. But those don't affect necessarily your ability to bring in midfield depth or your ability to fill another U22 spot.
Yeah.
And they could
trade within the league. Yeah.
And like they could have gone for that 2DP model and got another $1 million in GAM, which at the very least would let them use that GAM this year. And if they have any and replace like $1 million in GAM that they're using currently, that they may then be able to transfer to next year. I mean, Garth Lagerwey gave a very detailed, gave a pretty detailed interview, which he does not infrequently. And he explained that is why Atlanta went with the 2DP model this year, because they were able to then use some of that GAM bonus on this year's roster and save GAM that carries over, that doesn't expire this year toward next year's roster.
Damn, that was smart.
Yeah.
And so there were choices made, right? And it is what it is. The team is where it is. If Cheeto's down, I'm very curious what your back three looks like.
Because they don't want to play Teenage.
Teenage appears to be not fit yet.
Yeah.
But even if he were, you have him and Ian both left-footed. You have Miles, who would be, I think, your obvious choice to play middle as your only right foot natural center back unless you want to go down to like Kip Keller.
Which apparently they do not.
So I don't know what that looks like. I guess you play one of Hadebe or Murphy in the middle.
Or just, you're an adult, figure out a way to play. I don't care what side your foot is. Like,
right. I mean,
at a certain point,
played either side.
Right. And at a certain point, it's like, look, I don't care that you have two left-footed center backs. At some point, it's like it's all hands on deck. Figure this shit out. Like, it's a champagne problem to have people on their proper footed side. This is not a champagne time right now. And also, why isn't Hadebe match fit? He's been here for almost 3 weeks.
I don't know. I don't have the answer.
I just I would love to know the answer to that question. I would love to know the answer to, if he's not match fit, but now, when is he going to be match fit? He certainly, if he's not match fit in terms of starting, you're telling me he wasn't match fit for 20, 30 minutes in this game?
Yeah, I mean, he looked a bit rough the previous game when he came in for a little bit. I'm not taking anything from that, given it was his first minutes with the team. But you do I do think that it's fair to have an expectation that if you bring a guy in late in the season, he's in a position to at some point to contribute. So my expectation is that at some point he's able to play on the field and contribute. He
Right.
is listed on the roster, I think, as a TAM player.
Ooh.
He's listed on the roster as a TAM player. So, they're paying some money for him, and he's under contract through next year. So, we'll see, I guess, with him. I don't want to be too down. I think we've said a lot of stuff that we've said a lot of stuff that I think is true, but my main takeaway from the game is the team is still in the position that they were, several games ago, right? I mean, you may feel less confident they'll turn it around, but ultimately, if they can find stability on the back line, however that looks, and Lucho gets back to his top form at some point before or in the playoffs, the team is capable of making a big run. If that doesn't happen, I don't know if they get out of the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so here, just to put a positive something on here, related to the teenage discussion. Totally agree with you, Chief. Totally agree with you, Grayson. Like, he's on contract. He's on a big contract. He's here next year. He's a part of the plans. Under contract next year, and potentially your starting lineup next year is Miazga, Awazim, Hadebe, depending on what happens with Murphy and Robinson in the offseason. Maybe it's all 5 of them. But all of that being said, Alvis Powell had maybe his best game ever for the FCC. This was incredible. He embarrassed Giroud a couple of times with his defensive work, and went on a run in this game that was 50 or 60 yards.
Well, he had no idea what to finish that with, though, which was really funny. It was like he found himself still going.
Yeah.
And his thought process was, surely someone's going to stop this, right?
Right. Or somebody is open. And there was nobody open either. There was not like he should have made this play moment. He just kept going until he's finally one-on-one with Lloris there in the corner. A similar-ish angle to what Boanga was given with Celentano. And unfortunately, Lloris is able to make a save. If I remember correctly, that might have been the first save Lloris was asked to make in the game, which is also problematic and wild. I totally agree with you on Hadebe. However, Powell looked good, played good, held his own again against some of the best attackers in this league. One of the best attackers in the world. That was cool to see. That was a cool FC Cincinnati moment, from where he was in 2019 with this team to what he looked like having to sub in here was something else. So yeah, I don't know. That was a positive for me. I do think Acosta is not fully back, but he is progressing in that way. I think that
I'll
looks
say this:
good.
he looks healthy.
Yeah.
He just doesn't look like it's there for him. So before, I was worried that health was going to be an issue. To the untrained eye, he does not appear to be in discomfort or pain or shying away from contact. It's just it's not there right now. And I don't know what that is.
It's not there all of the time. There are moments still in this game, though, where he has some really great passing, tons of lovely give and goes right at the top of the box. It's so close. Yeah, and Kubo looks good as well. Has a couple of shots in this one that look great, but man.
Also, they were getting him the ball higher later in the game.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of the problems were him losing the ball around, midfield, which is like a freaking 2021 era problem.
Yes. I have started to see a couple of those. Will the team move on from Lucho in the offseason takes popping up of like, they're sick of his attitude. They're sick of his selfish play.
You have to stop it. You have to stop it.
That's truly. I respect the commitment to the team that you're in full sicko mode. That's one sicko mode too far.
I wonder if those same people look at the Bengals and go, "We got to get rid of Joe Burrow."
People were saying that.
Happy.
No, people were saying that Joe Burrow was the problem. It's like my brother in Christ. They didn't punt in that Redskins game. He's not the problem.
Yeah, actually, God damn it, that actually was the ESPN first take.
Joe Burrow is letting this team down by what?
Right. Or yeah, you'll see like I don't know. It's a classic like high school football thing where they'll hand the ball off to the 250-pound freshman running back who gets 700 yards and 14 touchdowns. But like you could imagine a fan of the team going, "We got to get rid of him. We're too dependent on the pass or on the run. We've got to diversify our offense." Like, nah, man, it usually works. We got to roll with it.
I mean, what is the plan if you get rid of him? Who do you replace him with? Like,
they don't have any Kubo in and have him do a Lucho impression.
They don't have any other ability to generate offense except for Orishano shooting the ball from beyond midfield.
No, you don't understand. We're going to put in more bids for U.S. men's national team players, and one of them has to pan out this time.
Like, I swear to God, if the plan is to like move Lucho, I don't think this is the plan. Okay,
right.
But if the plan were to move Lucho on and pay like a combined $45 million in transfer fees for like McKinney and Sargent, I would die. I would die.
Welcome to the Cincy PostCast, your source for everything but FC Cincinnati news, because fuck this team with a shovel.
Here's the deal. We give you somebody about as good as Brandon Vasquez and somebody not as good in what we're going to ask him to do as Lucho Acosta. What do you think?
Just die in a fire with that take, please.
But to be clear, I give no credence to the like.
Yes.
This is just kind of an example of how silly.
Yes.
The thought is.
I don't think that's on the table. Albright signed Lucho to a big contract extension. And as we've seen this very year, Acosta is still very good. I believe he only needs... Oh, shit. He got an assist. Did he already match his goal plus assist contributions this year to last year? I think he's pretty damn close. He was like 1 or 2 away for matching last year. So just like... Obviously, it's a new year. It's a new league. Guys are doing different things. Teams are in different states, but like he's still putting up these types of numbers. He gets an assist in this game. I know, again, it feels like an off night for him, but he walks out of this one with an assist. Like, it's something else.
He has as many goals and assists this year as he had last year.
There it is. I knew he was close. Okay.
31 combined. And he could become... I feel like it's just like a handful of people in league history to have 20 assists. And he's sitting on 19.
Tell him that.
Yeah, wasn't it only like 3 or 4 guys? Yeah.
It's just like 3 or 4 guys. I don't have the list in front of me. And I'm not going to look it up because I think we should move on.
Carlos Valderrama, I think, had like 30 assists in one season.
Valderrama was on the
list. Is there anything else from this game? Let me ask you this. Is there how much of the blame do you put on the players? How much of the blame do you put on Noonan? How much of the blame do you put on Albright? Can we assign percentages for this loss in particular?
Pass.
Sure.
Pass.
Players 60%, Noonan 10%, Albright 30%. I have no idea. I'm not even going to try to justify that.
That's harsh, Chief. I have no idea either.
Book it.
I'll agree with Chief. I feel like somebody else should do it. Okay, I think that's enough about a loss, right? That feels like enough. Let's head on over to part 2, where again we get to talk about ourselves for a second. We won, as you might have heard, literally the best MLS podcast in the United States. Nay, the world in 2024. I assume Canada got to participate in the competition. It did not look like it was region locked.
You win a U.S. award. That's world championship.
That's absolutely point. True. And you know what? There's MLS accounts out of the UK. There's a guy over in Finland who follows MLS pretty closely that I like.
An MLS Netherlands account that's pretty good too.
It sure is. It's had a couple of hot takes on FC Cincinnati over the years. But yeah, we're the best one. So we had to talk to the guy who awarded us that award. We spoke to Favian Renkel on this one. Enjoy the conversation. Find out exactly how many producers we will be able to hold on retainer even going into next year. And we'll catch you on the other side talking some Patreon and New York City FC. Huh? Let's do it. Oh, and before we get to the next part of the episode, I do want to tell you about our friends over at Cincy Shirts. They have been with us from the beginning. They were one of the very first supporters of FC Cincinnati. They were our very first sponsor here at the Post. We absolutely love them. They have the best gear for all of your Cincinnati sports, Cincinnati memorabilia. You got a fun community that you're a part of. They probably have a relevant Cincy shirt for you on their website or in one of their 3 locations. They're in Oakley Hyde Park, they're in Loveland, and they're over in Fort Mitchell in Kentucky. Really, really good people. They will print on demand in their shop. If they have a design on their website that they are not, if they don't have stock in their store, they will print on demand for you. They are awesome. One thing that I promise you they will never have stock of, but absolutely do sell, are the Post shirts. They have shirts from us. We have made designs that are up on the website. You can find a link to them in the description of this episode. Go check them out in person, and if you tell them which design you want printed on a shirt right then and there, they'll do it for you. It's great, and I know it's great because I've been able to do it myself. Really good folks. And hey, while you're there picking up Post merch or Bengals merch or anything else, you drop this code, ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, get 10% off your next order. Again, the promo code is ThePostCincy. 10% off your next order for anything from Cincy Shirts. It's an awesome, awesome deal. Click the link in the description below as well for links to our merch. Otherwise, a huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this episode. And thank you, listener, for using that code. Joining us here in part 2, an incredibly special guest. We had to have him on after the Post's dominant win on Twitter over the weekend. Unlike some teams in Cincinnati, we are joined by the one and only Favian Renkel. You can read his work over at Sports Illustrated, Leagues Cup, SBI. Favian, welcome to the Postcast, my man.
No, thank you guys so much for having me on. It's a true pleasure. I'm happy you guys won it. I guess I found out a lot about your podcast, so that's the true kind of thing I always like to do when this year time of year comes around. So it's a true pleasure. It's all mine.
So I guess the real question is, when can we expect the fabulous cash prize or some sort of trophy for winning this?
Yeah, that's a good question, to be honest. I was joking. I was like, maybe I should laminate something and print something out for you, you know?
We were tempted to like run to a Goodwill and find an old bowling trophy to take around to the stadium on Saturday as sort of our prize for having won the illustrious award here. So
yeah, no, it's really cool that you guys won. You guys are so this first year Corner of the Galaxy won, and it was funny because they're a great podcast too out here in LA, and hearing my name on their podcast and now hearing my name on your guys' podcast, it's always pretty funny to see and hear that, right?
Right.
So what is the official name of the award that we have won? Is it the Favian, or is it the Renkel, or is it what are we like? I know what it's Tony.
The Favi.
The Favi is good.
The Fave.
The Favi is good, right? Or yeah, exactly. The Favi, just like the Emmy, right? So that's not a bad one either.
Yeah.
Well, look, now that we've won this, we're committed. We need to make this an illustrious award so that, in 50 years' time, when this is truly the marker of the best fan-made content in the United States, that we can etch our name early on the record book. That's really what I'm looking for here.
Many people have noted you can't win the FIGOT until you win the Favi. So we're already starting our quest right now. So this is good. This is big.
No, and what I was saying is it's just like when LAFC said they didn't care about the Open Cup until they won it, right? This is almost the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing.
Well, that's how I approached it. I'll be honest with you. When the nomination process came out, it was really truly Open Cup early rounds. Hey, if the reserves get us there, cool. If we don't get there, that's fine. But the second we made it to the Final Four, I was determined to win this damn thing.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to say Don took out all the other bigger podcasts and you guys are in here by yourself, but no. You guys definitely deserve everything you guys are getting, and I'm glad I get to be here to talk to you guys about it.
Look, if we had to beat all the MLS Next Pro podcasts, so be it. All right, you only play those who are in front of you.
Yeah, no apologies in that regard. So I guess my question is, what was it that made you decide that this was going to be something that you were going to do to try and, I don't know, be the award giver for content creation and the people that are reporting on this league and covering this league? What was the motivation behind that?
Yeah, well, I've been around not too long, actually. I've been around for about 3 years or 4 years now, and I actually started on a podcast myself. I was on the San Jose Earthquakes podcast called Tectonic Takes, and that's where I kind of got my start into this journalism world. So then I became a beat writer for the Earthquakes, and then I got a couple of gigs, and then I started writing for Leagues Cup and things like that. So I always felt like this is a great community. It's a community that doesn't get a lot of flowers, because if you are a soccer fan in the United States, and especially a MLS fan, you kind of have to do your research. You have to look up content because it's just not out there. I mean, there's not 40 shows just talking about MLS all the time on the airways or on TV. So I always felt like, this community was really strong and really tech savvy, because you had to be, right? It was almost like if you wanted content of your team, you have to go find it, or you have to go listening and trying to find some sort of podcast. And I always felt like the shows and the journalists and the photographers don't get enough credit in that regard. I mean, I work for Sports Illustrated, but they don't take the time to, give anybody their flowers, or MLS doesn't either. So I felt like it was, birthed upon me that maybe I should give people flowers. And I'm nobody, but I felt like if we could be a stronger community and more connected, then everybody wins, right? And I hope more people found your show because of the Favies, and I hope that you guys found more shows out too. So it's honestly something that I love doing every year, and it's the second year, so it's truly an honor.
It was actually very funny because two things happened in the week prior to this. One, folks will have no idea about this, but we had reached out to Happy Foot, Sad Foot to try to collaborate on something before the LAFC match. Didn't come to fruition, but then later to see them nominated, it was like, oh, okay, neat. Like it actually took like a little bit to discover them and like find like a sort of like-minded LAFC outlet, podcast, whatever, content creators, which I thought was interesting. And then also on Wednesday, Chief and I, we went on a rant for like 45 minutes about how damn hard it is to find fan content in this league for other teams, and how hard it is to just like quickly flip over and see like, oh, hey, what's going on with the Houston Dynamo? It's like, there, on one hand, there's like 15 different fan podcasts, and it's hard to get a sense of like, frankly, where some good ones are, or where the insightful ones are, or what the vibe is of each of them. Oh, these guys are funny. These guys are tactical. These guys are straight news, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And it just, the league has always made that so difficult. And then all of a sudden, the Favies pop up, and it's like, hey, somebody's trying to put these folks all in sort of the same room. I liked it. I very much appreciated it. So I definitely wanted to mention that to you.
Yeah, look, hey, Happy Foot, Sad Foot, they were one of the clubs that Don gave me a ring and said, hey, don't have them in the best podcast because we have these other teams shine a little bit more. You know, they might be tired. You know, they had a couple of too many podcasts this year, and we don't want to overload them, you know.
That podcast fixture congestion.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, it's happening all over the world. All right. You know, it's not a us problem. Okay. No, but yeah, it is truly hard to find everybody. And I honestly think, well, the way the algorithm works on X, right? If we all interact with each other, we'll pop up in each other's feeds a little bit more, you know? So that's kind of a goal of it too. Like, let's say you guys have interactions with more LA Galaxy fans, and all of a sudden, whenever the time comes, once every blue moon, because of this MLS schedule, you guys play the LA Galaxy, they have access to you, or they at least know of you, right? So that's another kind of thing that I like to do with this, where you can have fan bases interacting with each other. And you guys in Cincy, you guys have a very strong online presence. I mean, Laurel and Pat, you guys have killer, you know, reporters that kind of cover the game. And I work with Laurel on the soccer reporter side, and she's great. I mean, I don't know if I've ever met somebody get in the hair of a team like that this year and still keep doing it strong, right? So no, shout out to her and Pat too. I mean, they're killers out there, and I feel like Cincy fans are really reaping all the rewards, right? And especially with you guys too.
Yeah, we've always said that we're very spoiled here in Cincinnati to have a straight news outlet like Cincinnati Soccer Talk, to have Pat and Laurel coming at it from our paper of record in town, coming at it from a Patreon and supporter funded operation with Laurel. It's we have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to content. And like you said, we have, frankly, some very funny fans online. I'm very proud of our fan base. It is a good time over here in Cincy. For folks who are not familiar with your work, shame on them, but could you give us a little background? How did you get into this world? I know you said, you mentioned with the podcast, but what drove you to dive into the journalism side of being a soccer fan?
Well, I was tired of, losing all the time and being a journalist of the Earthquakes, so I just did the league, dogs. The glory days of Wanda were behind me, and I said, it's time to move on, So
I feel that answer so much.
All jokes aside, I got really lucky. So in San Jose, we have great local media. We have the San Jose Mercury News. We have the Chronicle. We have a whole SF Chronicle. We have a whole bunch of kind of like great local outlets, right? And when I first got invited to the press conference, because at the time it was Matias Almeida, and there wasn't many dual speaking reporters. So I got invited to the press conferences as a Spanish speaker so that they would have more Spanish media in the building for Almeida to talk to. And since Almeida had a little bit of like his Spanish was like mine, because I'm Uruguayan and he's Argentinian, he was a little more fond of me, so he would give me better answers. And then I was like, okay, I'll start to post these. And then I started to post these, and then it became a little bit of journalism. You get some insight, you get things, and then you become like a beat writer at that point. But where I went kind of league wide was when I was at the games and there was 20 people lining up to talk to Jeremy Bobasi. And I was like, okay, well, Jeremy Bobasi is a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's awesome. But when no one's going to talk to Lucho Acosta and you have a one-on-one with him, you might as well go ahead and talk to Lucho Acosta. So I started posting league-wide news. So when like Hanny came into town, I would just be like, Hanny, you going to play for the USMNT? And boom, that was national news, right? So it was something that I thought that was a good opportunity to at least feed the league with news that maybe, you know, team PRs are a little more on the ball at home, and you don't really get these kind of questions being answered at home just because of the way the politics work and all of this. And then it was kind of a fun thing, you know. Yeah, you get to interview players from all around the league, and then luckily I got picked up by 90 Minute USA, and then from there I went to Sports Illustrated. But yeah, no, it's been a blessing. Actually, I've had a couple of Acosta interviews now, but yeah, it's been fun.
It does fill a need in this league, because we've talked about this in the past, that there's a, you know, the problem with MLS and why I think that there's sort of a disconnect with the league and the fans to a certain extent is that the league tends to go away between match days, because there isn't that constant feeding of news and player info that drips out over the course of the week. From your point of view as a journalist, where do you think that the coverage of MLS is lacking the most in terms of a league-wide coverage?
Yeah, honestly, I believe everybody does very, very well covering their local markets. I felt like there was a need for someone to kind of step in and do a little bit more of everything, but it's tough because the way the game times are now, to get an East Coast person to care about LA Galaxy Portland, even though you have potentially 2 MVP candidates playing, is tough. I mean, it's going to end at 11 p.m. You know, it's a hard sell. So, and then on top of that, the press conference is at 12, right? So it was something that it's hard to do, to get a reporter to cover the whole league a little bit more. And I totally understand why they're so specialized in their own markets, because it's tough. It's tough to branch out. But I think MLS is headed in the right direction, because if you start to cater a little bit more to the betting market and maybe a little bit more to fantasy, and I think So Rare is doing a great job, a lot more people become to tap into like these not random players, but these players that are not so well known. I think that's when you start to see MLS get a little bit bigger. And then in the everyday kind of media cycle, at least on Twitter, when betting and fantasy becomes a bigger thing. Because if you look at the NFL, people care if Devonta Smith is practicing on a Wednesday, and you have that information right away. And there's tons of outlets covering all that. So with fantasy and betting, I think MLS could get more media coming. But there's a lot of politics in that. I mean, I used to post injury availabilities, and then Luchi Gonzalez, the former San Jose Earthquakes coach, didn't like me doing it. So it's something where, you know, you get pressed by the coach, and then you don't get the best answers. And it's like, well, you have to toe the line, right? Like, what are you going to try to do? Are you going to try to appease all the bettors and the fantasy players, or are you trying to appease all the, you know, team likers, right? So it's just tough. It's a lot of politics. And I think with more availability and with more reporters coming into the game, it's only going to help the league. And I'm very open-minded to where we're all trying to grow this game together. And I think that's going to make MLS a little bit different too.
Well, hey, I got to say thank you for your role in growing this game, in shining a spotlight on, we'll call them podcasts. I don't want to say good, because that implies that we're something that we're not, but podcasts around the league. I am still blown away that we won the fan vote. And I know the Battered Herons, the Miami podcast that was nominated, I believe does 4 English shows a week and a Spanish show. And,
yeah, we
don't do that much. So that sounds like a lot of work.
Hey, I know about a Cincy podcast, but I think all the fans said we're going to have to win something this year.
Look,
Miami's already going to win the Supporter Shield. They don't need this one, you know?
Yeah, right. You gotta save something for the rest of us here. And I couldn't help but notice there were no Columbus nominees making the Final Four. So, you know, just something for the history books to take note of, I think.
Hey,
here.
Hell is real, and Cincy owns the podcast world. That's for sure.
That's all I need right there. That's the only one I need.
And you're allowed to say best podcast now, at least for 1 year. I know Core of the Galaxy said it maybe twice.
I am saying it every single time until you do this poll again. And I'm split. On one hand, I love the community building. I love the recognition of the hard work that goes into a lot of this stuff. On the other hand, if you never hold it again, we're forever the best MLS podcast. So
I also need a ruling first, too. So with the Supporters Shield versus winning MLS Cup, only one of those gets the star over your badge. Do we get a star over our podcast badge for winning this award?
I think so. I think once you win 3 or 5, you could add another star if you want, depending on the rules of your podcast.
We'll consult the style guide of our podcast here. I love that, and I think we're gonna have to reach out to our t-shirt guys and see if we can't get a star above the crest t-shirt after this, because look, this is a major award we just won.
The guys over at Happy Foot, Sad Foot, they didn't win, and they have Emmy winners. So that makes you guys Emmy winners. You know, that officially puts the Favies over the Emmys in my book.
That tracks for sure.
Yeah, I'm there. That totally works. Oh my God, no, Favian, you've been incredibly gracious with your time. You told us before we were recording you were off to go pick up a family member, so I definitely want to give you your time back, man. But thank you again. It was cool. It was cool to be nominated. Blown away to see our fans vote for us. It was awesome, and thank you for facilitating that. It was great.
No, thank you guys so much for having on, and thank you for being such a great outlet for people to listen to fan-made content or content of the league and Cincinnati, because what you guys are doing every weekend and editing, you guys are helping the league grow in every single way possible. So thank you guys as well.
Hey, we do what we can. So awesome, man. Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Have a good one.
Awesome conversation. Love that. Love that. The second recipients of a Favi, that feels good. Corner of the Galaxy, very well-known podcast, and us. So how about that?
Yeah, we're bigger than the Galaxy.
Obviously.
We're bigger than that corner of the galaxy, I should say.
We're big in our corner of the galaxy.
What I take away from this knowledge is that there's never been a repeat winner of the Favi. So, gentlemen, you down to repeat?
No, I'm good. This was
I don't even think we should enter next year.
we should make a public announcement, like with an actual press release of the fact that we're taking ourselves out of consideration and that everybody should nominate another podcast.
We, like George C. Scott, do not believe that artists should be placed in competition with each other.
Yes, but only after we've won it, so that we can always be above everybody else. Right. This is like England not participating in the World Cup for 50 years.
And the postcast cried, for there were no more worlds to conquer.
No, there is one more world we have to conquer. No, 2 more worlds. Here are the worlds. 1, I just want to see our dumb little name on the City Beat Best Cincy podcast list. I think it's a category. I don't know that it's a category. I think it's a category. It'd be really funny. It is a category. Boom. I want to see our name on it. We don't have to win it.
Just be eligible to vote for.
Yeah, it'd be nice. The other one is the FC Cincinnati fan surveys, where they say, where do you learn about team news? It would be fun to see our name on it. Not that you're learning a lot from this show, but it would just be fun to see our name on it.
I agree with that. If only there were people that have been guests on this show that could make that happen.
No, I want it honestly.
Yeah, I don't. I'll use any back channel to make this happen. The hell with doing it honest. You know who brags about doing things honestly? The people that don't win. Okay,
yeah, the losers.
It's like, I'm doing it the right way. Why are all these other people getting ahead? They're cheating.
So yeah, thank you, Favian. I do think though that it was kind of perfect timing, Chief, of us ranting and raving about how hard it is to find content, and then somebody was like, "Hey, who's the best at doing all this stuff?" It's like, oh,
turns out it's us.
Yeah, huh?
So
that's disappointing.
So Tim Apple, if you're listening, get us on the app. Get us a featured spot right here.
No.
No.
I was thinking, how funny would it be if somebody saw that we won that, went and back and listened to like our last episode where it's just totally unscripted, unhinged, just me and Chief riffing on the news. It's, oh man. Not it like a player interview or something cool? Is
it bad form or acceptable to go back to our sponsors and demand more money now that we're award winning?
I think it's expected. I think we say, you know, it's going to be at least.
Now you're sponsoring an award-winning podcast.
The Patreon tier is going to go up $1.
This is Joe Biden's America right here. Everything's more expensive.
Ooh, that's a good point. We should make like a big thing of like, if Harris wins the presidential election, we'll have to increase our Patreon tier because we can't keep up with inflation.
Truly what the MAGA podcast would do in this space, I think.
Well, anyway, thank you, Favian, for bestowing upon us a very illustrious award. And thank you, everybody. And that's really what it is. Thank you for voting for us. Thank you for nominating us. I don't think we explained it, but like, he opened it up just on Twitter, like, hey, tag your favorite podcasts, and the top 4 with the most tags got to be in the poll, and then people voted in the poll. So a bunch of you tagged us, so thank you for doing that. And then a whole bunch more of you voted for us, so that was even cooler. Let's wrap this segment up with the last handful of listener questions from the aforementioned Patreon. Right now, for $2, you can get in. That price may be going up in the near future. I'm just kidding. It probably won't. Bart Sharkley asks, though. Oh, yeah, you get to ask a question if you pay us money. I don't think I explained that. So that's how these questions are coming to us. What player musical, again, this is from Bart. What player musical would Chief and Kevin attend with Grayson, and why? Conversely, what player musical would be an unequivocal no? Man, this would be a good time to have Away Days come out.
Yeah, you might have to defer the first answer and just answer the second part.
What was the second part?
What would
you not attend?
Unequivocal no. There was one in I don't know what you call it, in theaters. I don't know what the Broadway term is, showing or playing. It was like the AOC Pelosi play or thing.
Yeah, I got vetoed suggesting that one.
That didn't look good.
that looked like shit.
I find it like
it wasn't exactly Frost Nixon. We'll put it that way.
Even, let's say these are your 2 favorite politicians, right? Let's put aside like your favorability of these people for a second. I find it very difficult to lionize current people who still have an opportunity to absolutely ruin their reputations. It's like you could have easily done like, Titans of America, Bill Cosby, like.
And what is that play going to be? One is an energetic idealist. The other is a practiced professional politician who knows how to get things done. And they each get to have their say. And it turns out that, maybe that they like each other and have more in common than they originally thought. Like, that's the play. There's not going to be you're kind of
selling me on it.
There's not going to be a single surprise in that thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good comfort food when you already agree with all the positions being espoused.
I will say, though, there's a twist in the third act where AOC actually attacks Pelosi's husband with a hammer.
I would watch that.
It's like, is this Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding again with a political bend?
You think they're getting along, but then
crime.
I don't know. I don't think that there's anything that's an unequivocal no. Maybe something with like a lot of audience interaction, or like not even audience participation, but like,
you say that.
Okay. Granted. But I mean like fucking with the audience is really more what I don't want. Like a comedian doing crowd work, but like the dramatic version of that. I don't want to be a part of that.
Or like the old Gallagher bits where it's like you had to put plastic over yourself to get avoided spraying with fruit.
With fruit and racial slurs is also what the ponchos were for. I don't know, Grace, is there anything that you would refuse to see? Or is there, this is not really my world.
I know one he wishes he would have refused to see.
I have no interest in those. I have no interest in like the musical based on a popular movie we all watched in our childhood, or just like musical version of like a Disney cartoon. Those, I'm sure they're fine. They're not for me. Yeah. And so I don't need to be part of it.
But you're not going to be rushing out to see Back to the Future when it comes through the Aronoff Center?
I will not be.
See, I think they're picking the wrong movies to do this with.
I'll tell you. So they talked about like Back to the Future, apparently like being cool with the flying car and stuff. I saw Spider-Man turn off the dark. Nothing is going to be as exciting as that, as far as like spectacle, right? Because like you might see somebody die.
And it might be the writer just shooting himself backstage. Who knows?
Oh no. Yeah, that's a good one.
I think they should be adapting B movies to become musicals, like movies that were not great, but like they were, you know about them, like Waterworld the musical. Like that's something that should exist. They can flood the stage or do something like that, or like, you know, like trying to think what another good example of this would be, like you know, movies where it was just the Cube the musical. Like I would watch that too. Like we're adapting popular movies, adapt the non-popular movies, like adapt the stuff I either haven't seen to death, or we're like, there's a way to do it with an interesting twist to it. Like we're going to fix this shitty movie by making it a musical. I'd be into that.
Yeah.
There's a Stranger Things play coming out. No. I'm not going to see it.
Like,
I don't need to see like Hopper and Winona Ryder in high school.
I am guessing
that really what it is,
and it doesn't even make any sense for them to be in it.
Why don't they do that more often? Like, I would think that like that would be the next stage for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is to have a show on Broadway where it's like one of their movies becomes a Broadway show.
Have you ever seen the church play?
Oh yes,
ones.
Yeah,
where they like. There's a church in Canada that does like a Easter play every year, and they always model it off of a popular movie, and they always like inexplicably insert pop songs.
Yeah.
So you have like you know, Iron Man singing Third Eye Blind while he gets hung on a cross.
Where in Canada is this?
No, there's a fantastic Jenny
it's in like
Nichols.
Alberta or something.
Yeah, is there an MLS team close by?
I guess
the closest
or Minnesota
would be Vancouver. Yeah, Vancouver, Minnesota. I assume would be closest. Anyway,
and who do I need to bribe to get FC Cincinnati on the schedule Easter weekend next year?
Let's move on.
We can move on. I'll ask this, and if we don't have something ready to go, I'll give you guys a moment to think about it, and I can come back to it. But Jay Walbrink asks, Kevin, Grace, and Chief, how well do you know your fellow co-hosts? Please play a game of 2 truths and a lie. Are we ready for this? Do you guys have 2 truths and 1 lie available, or would you?
I could have it if I don't go first.
Okay, I have mine. I can come back to it if we need a moment.
You can go first.
Okay, I will read you my 3 items here, and we can discuss what they are. Okay, I had to write them down because I'm not familiar with my own life. The first one: My first album I ever owned was Limp Bizkit's Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water. This is the second one. I currently own My Childhood Home. And number 3, I was on track at one point in my life to being a Baptist minister. I was a part of the youth track of becoming a pastor in the American Baptist Church.
Can I ask a question real fast?
It does feel like cheating, but yes.
It can't be. I would say it would be cheap to make the trick be like, not Baptist, it was Pentecostal.
It's
Jehovah's
not,
Witness. Hell yeah.
It's not that bad. No, I'm not going to. I've never broken a bone, but I twisted my ankle. No.
Oh, I'm going to say you were definitely on track to be a minister.
Okay.
Your first album was not Limp Bizkit.
Chief, what do you think?
You are not living in the house that you grew up in.
He said own. He didn't say living in.
Own. You do not own the house that you grew up in.
That's a very funny caveat. I just own it, but like
don't live in it.
As a dastardly landlord, it's like some sort of trophy. No, Grayson is right. The first album was not. That was my second album. There's your annoying twist.
That's not better.
It was Fushu Mang by Smash Mouth. Was the first album of mine that I ever owned as my own. So there you go.
There you go.
Now you know me more. I did buy my parents' house off of them. I consider this one of my 2 childhood homes. I lived in 2 homes. We moved when I was in middle school. So this is the house I lived in from middle school and high school, and my parents lived in when I was in college and beyond. They were looking to move. Me and my wife were looking to move. Hey, that was super easy. We just bought the house off of them. So it was nice. And I was on track to be. I was a part of the youth leadership corps of the American Baptist Church. Spent 4 years there. Was supposed to go to probably Judson College. I believe it's Judson University up in Illinois. That's where my life was headed. And it didn't end up there. So there we go. There's Kevin. Do either of you have your list ready to go?
I can go.
Oh, Chief wants it. All right, Chief, give us 2 truths and a lie.
It was either me or Grayson. It's not a lot. It's a 50-50 shot here. All right, number 1. I was once in a television commercial with Broadway and film star Patrick Wilson. Number 2, this is the first podcast I've ever done.
Ooh.
And number 3, I was a philosophy major in college at Tulane, as a callback to earlier.
I hate philosophy.
Hate philosophy.
This is not the first podcast you've ever done.
That's what I was thinking. Chief, this is not your first podcast.
It is not. I had a very short-lived podcast with my father back about 10, 15 years ago when the medium was very, very young.
Wow.
I don't think any of them exist anymore. But my father and I did a weekly show that was 10-minute episodes just talking sports. And it was very fun.
That's fun.
Yeah. It turns out if we just would have stuck with it, the medium took off.
You had the right idea. You lacked commitment.
We firmly lacked commitment.
So you were in a commercial then with
TV, Broadway,
film
TV,
and stage star
Patrick Wilson. Yeah.
Wow.
Most famous for his episode of Girls.
Clearly. And not the Ocean Master in both Aquaman 1 and Aquaman 2, or playing on the revival of Oklahoma on Broadway.
Damn.
It's
or playing or his role in the filmed miniseries of Angels in America.
Fantastic, actually.
Fantastic. One of the best things that's really been made, in my opinion. But
the he and my father and his father were very, very close friends when they lived in Florida together. And there was a TV commercial that both of us ended up in. And I always enjoy the fact that my dad would occasionally talk to his father, John Wilson, and they would inevitably probably ask like how the kids are doing. And when he would say that to John, it would be, oh, well, Patrick is dating insert starlet here. He's just got this new 3-picture deal with DC Films. You know, he's up for about 2 things in Broadway. If that doesn't pan out, how's Chief doing? Oh, you know. Yeah.
An award-winning podcast host. Come on now. He's got something to clap back with.
Take that, Pat. So yeah, like it was 2 paths diverged on the set of that commercial. And one of us ended up significantly better off in life than the other. So there you go.
It's like an episode of Swapped at Birth or something.
Right.
You
and if I want to really think deeply about the implications of that, yes, I was a philosophy major in college.
Hey, there it is. There is a universe where you, in fact, have the successful stage and film career and he does not.
Yeah, I want to live in that universe instead. That sounds way more fun.
Grayson, 2 truths and a lie. Hit us.
I have been robbed at gunpoint in my house. I have been trampled by a bull. And I have hiked to Everest Base Camp.
Wow. Which one? I kind of hope that the robbery one is a lie, just for your sake. So that feels like that would be true then.
I'm going to say
I'm leaning Everest.
I want trampled by bull to be real, because that's very, very funny now that you've survived it, obviously. I'm going to say Everest Base Camp. Wait, to base camp, not to the top.
I said to base camp, yeah.
Base camp, all right. Trampled by a bull then, because I think you've probably been to base camp, but not to the top of Everest.
I'm going to say the Everest is the lie.
Everest is the lie.
Yeah.
I've done Kilimanjaro, and that's the end of, I think, my mountaineering career.
Are there any other mountains?
I have no interest. I did like other mountains, but like as far I have no interest in doing base camp. It's like too big of a commitment, and
oxygen tanks and things like that.
I know, yeah, it just seems like it.
Plus,
just seems like a hassle.
If the shit thaws, it probably smells terrible.
It is concerning that, like, obviously from base camp is more treacherous, that like a lot of the landmarks of like, oh yeah, you know, you're there when you're at the Orange Body or like Green Man or whatever. And it's like dead people are the mile markers of where you are. That's never good.
You should be so lucky. Like, talk about, like, you know, they say you only truly die when the last person speaks your name.
Damn.
There's a philosophy degree hard at work there. You were trampled by a bull.
Talk to us. What happened here? Was this on purpose?
Well, it was on purpose.
Is this metaphorical after we had to watch the Red Bulls beat the shit out of us in New York earlier this summer?
No, I did the running of the Bulls some years ago.
Wow.
And my plan was, I was at the very beginning. My plan was to just run straight, and then there's like there's a turn that they all turn, but you can go a little farther if you go straight and like get to a fence. And I was like, I'm just going to run straight through, hop on this fence. Everything's going to go by me. It's going to be fine. Instead, what happened was there were too many people. I got shoved into the turn where they were all turned, and I was on the side, but one broke off very early from the group.
Oh, no.
And it was just like mowing down people. And I never saw him coming.
Oh no.
And I just like wake up a little later.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
And like I kind of don't really know what's going on. You know, like I have like a hurt wrist, but I have like a bus to catch, and I take the bus back to the town I was staying in and go to the doctor, get my wrist looked at. And when I get back to where I'm staying, I find 2 like hoof prints on one on each thigh, basically.
Jeez.
Or the back of each thigh.
I guess you're lucky then that you weren't like ragdolled, or maybe you were like.
No, so I've seen the video
Oh, okay. Wait. Can we see the video?
No.
Okay.
What level of Patreon tier would there need to be to post the video?
I get his face in my back, but but the horns are like on either side of me.
That seems ideal then. If you're gonna get hit by a bull, that's where you want to be hit.
Yeah. There was a guy right before me who got a bit worse.
Oh, Jesus. Well, I'm glad you survived. And so then this means you were robbed at gunpoint in your house?
That was, yep. And that was actually a month later.
Was it the bull?
No.
He came to finish the job.
So I got back from like my study abroad, and I was back to school before my roommate, my housemates were. And so like I was just like on the couch watching The Daily Show, and some guys just like burst in, and you know they're armed, and you know, I mean, it ends up fine. Like they take a lot of like video games and DVDs and stuff. If the cash on my wallet, I did talk them into leaving my ID and like ATM card.
But do you have any idea how much of a pain in the ass it is to get one of these? I was like, it's just gonna get canceled anyway, but it's like a hassle. Right. And then so when it was over, because I had one of my roommates came back while it was happening, and and that's when they left. I mean, they like took his phone and wallet and left, and I was like, I couldn't find my wallet, and I found it in the fridge, like they had put it in the refrigerator. So there was like a moment where I was like, "Those motherfuckers lied to me."
that was the worst thing they did.
I was so nice to them, and they still couldn't do this right.
Oh man!
Would the fourth statement be truth or a lie of Grayson was running a small-time marijuana sales outfit out of his house at this time?
I was not.
Okay.
Damn. Well,
somebody who sublet a room from my roommate might have been, which is a piece of information I did not learn until afterward.
Oh, hey, by the way, we might be the target of some. Fuck. Well, Grayson, with all three of those statements, I'm glad you're with us. You know, those weren't guarantees, so I'm glad you're here.
Just think of this alternate timeline. You could have been a man of the cloth. I would be a great actor, and Grayson would have been gored by a bull. So
Jesus. Damn. Well, now we can't wish we were in alternate timelines, Chief. No. That's very greedy of us.
Yeah, it is true.
All right. 2 more questions here. Seth asks, he states, eventually gets to a question. Marty Gilliard, Sean Kilpatrick, Omar Cummings, and a host, I'm going to insert an A, and a host of recent Olympians were elected into the Bearcats Hall of Fame last weekend. Who would be in your inaugural FCC Hall of Fame class? Are you a big hall or small hall proponent?
A big hall proponent, especially for stuff like team halls of fame. Like
team halls have to be big.
It should be a fun excuse to get players people liked back and to get them, give them their flowers. So for me, the inaugural class would have to include Manu Ledesma, Jimmy McLaughlin, Mitch Hildebrandt. I would probably put.
There's a couple of right answers here. You could argue GB. You could argue Okoli as a league MVP at one point.
Because Okoli, like, he gave the first signature moment in club history and was also, he was the league MVP that year, right?
Yeah, Golden Boot winner, league MVP winner.
So I would have him in there, and then I would, maybe someone like a Deckel Kanan or like a
I think Corbin Bone deserves a shout here.
Justin Hoyt.
Hoyt could get in there.
Yeah, those guys would be the types of guys that would be in my inaugural class, I think.
I would go all year one. So like all guys who are on the team year one. So for me, it would be, Mitch, Akoli, Austin Berry, Jimmy, Corbin Bone.
Wiedemann?
I was thinking maybe Kenny Walker.
You'd be okay with Kenny Walker.
And that's I think my inaugural class.
Yeah. Ooh, you could kind of do like, you got to pick 4 guys from every year. And that is like your Hall of Fame class, but you do it 10 years later so you can properly reflect on their impact and fan standing, and maybe they don't become a legend at like Louisville or something. Cause like you could say Luke Spencer from year one, but he had a really good Cooper's career. So I don't want him to be around.
Stay tuned in this space. I've heard there's some interesting things afoot for the year 10 celebration next year.
On this point, though, a thing I would like to steal from Atletico Madrid is they do like, I forget the official name for it. It's like their Walk of Champions, where they have a walkway of bricks that give you it's like every player who has ever had 100 caps for the club makes the list. And so I put together this list at one point because I was curious who would be on this list. I made this list a while ago. So Celentano, Obi, Ian Murphy, and Alvis Powell were extremely close when I made this. I believe Powell is 1 away and the others are like 1 or 2 away. Then you have Corbin Bone, Jimmy McLaughlin, Alvaro Barreal, Brandon Vasquez, Nick Haglund, Lucho Acosta, Yuya Kubo, and I'd be willing to give a slight honorable mention and nod to Kenny Walker, who was on 91 caps. Nobody else really got quite that close. And just given the nature of USL and the state of American soccer, I'd be happy to give him the bump. But I don't know, Grayson, did you look up the caps, or did any of those guys surpass that?
Yeah. So, the 100, the list of 100 is Kubo, Acosta, Haglund, Vasquez, Barreal, Bone, McLaughlin, Murphy, Powell, Celentano, and Wobodo.
Okay, so they all hit their 100 in the time that I made this. Makes sense. Yeah, and then if I remember correctly, Kenny Walker's close with 91, and then
91. And then Santos is next with 77.
Okay, I was going to say there's a pretty big drop off after Walker, which is why I was willing to give him the nod there. But
yeah, I don't think anybody. So I would bet at this point in time against Santos hitting it. I mean, he'd have to come back next year.
Yeah.
Miazga at 68 is very possible, I think.
Yeah, 2 more years.
A full healthy year next year, throw in some Champions League and Leagues Cup appearances. He's there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, something like that, like on the plaza out front of the First Financial Gate, having a little plaque with each of those guys and maybe goals and assists or clean sheets if they're defenders and goals or something. So
Buka's got 37 appearances already.
Sneaking up there. If he's here for a couple of years.
He could hit it. He's under contract long enough.
Yeah. I mean, really what it is a meaningful contributor for 3 or 4 years is really what you're looking for, which sure, why not? Let's have a big old list of them. So yeah, good question. Seth, I don't think I said who that was from. Seth Ransoff. And finally, our last question. This one is mainly just for Chief, mainly because he owes a lot of money, according to this person. Caitlin asks, it was Christmas 1995. The Chief bet me that the dress I wore to dinner was a nightgown, and he bet me $1 million. He was clearly wrong. It's been almost 30 years. So my question is, questions, Caitlin, where is my money? And 2, can I expect Patreon interest? Chief, your response.
This is a really poor use of your $2, Caitlin. And you know what? I'm not refunding it. So you can just you can add that to the total. How about that?
Yeah, he owes you $1,002 now.
Yeah.
So there you go, Caitlin.
Make better use of your question next month.
Oh, there we go. Hey, guess what? That is all of the September questions. So thank you to everybody for asking your questions. Stay tuned for October. So there we go. Let's wrap this podcast up in part 3 with a New York City FC, let's call it preview. All right, it's that time. There's a match this week on Wednesday. New York City FC, last seen putting a hurting on their crosstown, or I guess cross state or
cross regional,
cross stadium rivals, because they, I guess, were the home team at Red Bull Arena in this one. NYCFC beat what's their name, New York Red Bulls 5-1 in their last go out. How are we feeling about this one? New York City was on a rough run of form before that game. Could very easily be a preview of a first round playoff game, depending on how Orlando, them, and Red Bulls shake out for the rest of the year. It's never fun playing on whatever pitch they end up playing on. I think I was wrong. I think the New York City game against FCC is at New York Red Bull Arena, whatever. Does it matter? Who knows where they're playing?
They're playing. It's happening. That's all we know.
It is at Red Bull Arena. I can't speak to where the last game was. Wait, yes, I can. It was also at Red Bull Arena, but New York Red Bulls were in fact the home team. Okay, we got. This is where a producer would have been useful. Okay, I don't know. How do we feel about this? Does it matter at this point?
I think we're locked into the 3 spot at this point. Columbus has a game in hand and is a point up on us. It would take some doing, I think, to claim the number 2 seed at this point, given
we're pretty
Columbus's
much locked
form.
into 3.
Yeah, catching Crew would be the only way it matters. Orlando City, we are 10 points ahead of them with 3 games remaining, meaning they cannot catch us. So we are currently residing at the lowest seed we can possibly be at.
Yeah, I just don't see us catching Crew during this time period.
Technically, if we win out and Miami loses out, we can tie them on points and we would beat them on wins if that were this case. But
yeah, Crew has they're playing Miami, Philadelphia, New England, and the Red Bulls. So
yeah, they have an additional game.
That's a tough end of the season for them, especially with having Philly, who's playing better, in Miami, and the Red Bulls are always annoying. I still expect them to probably take at least 9 points out of that. 8 or 9. I just don't think we're going to catch them then at that point with 3 games remaining and a game in hand.
Yeah.
So in that case, it doesn't matter, only to the sense of that this team, like we've said, broken record, this team needs to figure out what the hell it is and figure out something that works and something that's repeatable for the playoffs.
Yeah.
They haven't done it so far, so no time like the present.
Do we see a unique lineup? We have to.
I would assume that they have to. Well, I guess the question would be, who's your center backs? To me, this seems like a perfect opportunity to start Hadebe.
The game doesn't matter, really.
Yeah. We'll see a unique lineup because Hadebe will start.
Or you have Powell start with Kelsey and Kubo up top, because I'm going to assume, or Joe Keeney, damn it. Well, either way, any combination of those, I'm pretty sure hasn't happened yet, as Powell starting as center back. So,
yeah, I don't know.
Wild.
I assume we'll probably see Yamil Assad in this match as a rotational piece.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see Malik Pinto. I don't know that he exists, but it would be good to get him some minutes going into the playoffs, I would think, given how the year has gone with injuries and the need to, possibly have people ready to play.
It would be good for this game. It's short week. It functionally doesn't matter to have Keller, Agedo, Hadebe as your center back trio. Give an MLS Next Pro call up to Sharilla.
Have we had any of those MLS Next Pro call ups so far this year?
I think we used one.
I'm not sure anybody's played, but Ben Alcazar was with the team, I think.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Dem was called up or named to the League's Cup roster, but I don't think ever was on a match day roster.
Yeah, I don't think they ever didn't
he play?
He was in
he subbed in one?
I think he was in a roster.
Okay.
I would have sworn he played. Maybe I'm misremembering that.
But like, you're looking for time off from rotational guys.
He had no appearances in League's Cup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Shows you what I blocked that area out.
But he was on the bench against Philly.
All right. There you go.
It just seems like you would think that it's a midweek game. You're going to want to try to rotate. But at the same token, like this, your first choice lineup didn't exactly light the world on fire over the weekend. There's an argument that you got to, play him again. And it's like, let's get this worked out.
I don't really want to see rotation. I want to see the team trying to figure out a first choice lineup and how to, and having it playing well a couple of times going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with that.
That's really my only thought about the NYCFC game. Let's pick the scores.
Real quick, before we get to scores, Grayson, who do you think will start as your strikers? Who should start?
Should and will Kubo and Kelsey.
Ooh.
Actually, no, should Kubo and Kelsey, will Kubo and Santos, if he's healthy.
I am kind of leaning towards Kubo and Santos should start.
Should start Kubo and Kelsey, will start Giacchini and Baird.
You son of a bitch.
They're hell-bent on playing him. They're hell-bent on playing him.
And they've played him, I think he
every match he's been fit.
He started with everybody except for Baird, basically. Like, he started next to Valenzuela.
Let's see if that one does the trick.
They have played and started Giacchini in every match other than the one where he was unavailable because he had just broken his nose. He plays every game. The coaching staff has decided he is the starter. I don't get it, but it is what it is.
Under 0.5 goals this year for FC Cincinnati. For Giacchini.
Oh, okay. So for the team, that's a depressing
under. At this point, you'd have to bet the under.
I'm going to bet the over because I think he can get a garbage one, but only one. I'm not betting much over.
What were we saying success would be for Giacchini when he was signed here? I'm trying to remember what that was. As Grayson said that.
I think I said like 4 goals. 4.5 goals was like the thing. So it had to be like 4 or 5 goals.
Yeah, we ain't getting there.
Did you say goals or goal contributions?
We ain't getting there either way.
We're not getting there either way.
It might have been goal contributions, and it should have been like, I think I said 4.5 goal contributions.
Because you said like a half a goal contribution a game.
Yeah. So it should have been 4.5. Yeah.
We're not getting there.
No. But we're one hat trick away from making it interesting.
That's true. That's true.
Keep the optimism.
I would love for him to make it interesting.
I'm dying to eat my words on this, but I'm not really feeling that's going to be the case.
If he's going to continue to get a start, why can't Pinto get a random sub? Why can't Sharilla get a 4-day loan against a bad team? Like, what?
Because like you said, we've secretly bought his contract for next year.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
And I'm looking at the roster profile right now. He has that little caret next to his name that says he cannot be bought down with TAM, which means whatever the number is, it makes him, like, however they did it, it makes him a true DP this year.
So he's making 1.7 million or more,
right?
1.
Combined salary and
fee,
whatever fee.
I mean, if they paid a $2 million loan fee,
yeah, I was about to say that, like,
covering the salary,
when they called Como with like 2 minutes to go before the transfer deadline, Como was naming their price at that point, right?
Is this like when somebody like sends me a random text and they're like, "I'd like to buy your house," and I'm like, "Fine, $1 million."
Right, I always do that. It's yours for $1.5 million, buddy. How you feeling?
What if somebody, like, I would do that, except I would be terrified if someone took me up on that, because moving sounds like such a hassle, even at $1 million.
So I one time got really far down the path with those guys because I gave them a somewhat realistic number, and they're like, you'd have to move out within a week. And I was like, there's no way you're actually going to arrange that. And two, no, I'm done then. So
no.
Yeah. Scores. What do we think, Chief?
2-1 New York.
Oh, yeah, that sounds realistic. 2-1 for Grayson. I'm gonna go an optimistic 1-1.
See, that's not gonna happen. It's either gonna be like 2-1 New York, or it's gonna be like 6-4 FC Cincinnati out of nowhere. So at least have some gumption here with your prediction.
It's fine. 6-4 FC
there
Cincinnati.
We go.
That's the prediction. 6-4.
It's an award-winning prediction. Don't short yourself there.
Well, I feel sorry for whoever newly joined the podcast following our incredible come-from-behind victory. I'm just kidding. I think we dominated that vote from start to finish. Thank you, everybody.
Also, Cincinnati is a site for the 2025 Club World Cup, TQL Stadium.
We gave that about as much attention as the rest of the world will for the Club World Cup.
That's all I'm going to say about it.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy PostCast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. Also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.